Hey there guys, this is Malorian and this will be another Warmachine 101. I got a whole bunch of new questions here, which is great. For those who don't know, I set up a new Facebook page here for Mr. Malorian, where I'll be putting up updates and asking for what type of things you guys want for things like this. So yeah, you should go and like the page if you want to be getting notifications like this. So either way, like I said, we got a lot of questions, so let's start going through these. The first one here is from Josh Bazin, and he says, for new players, what do you think the most important things they can do after a game to learn from it? Are there particular questions that should be asked of your opponent, etc.? After a game as a new player, probably the most dangerous thing you can have happen is just say like, oh well, I just lost because he's better, or I forgot to do this, and really just make it a simplistic thing. The more of a simplistic reasoning you give to an outcome of a game, the less you're going to learn from it. So you want to say, instead of just like, oh, well, I lost this because there's a bad matchup, walk away. If you say, well, you know, maybe I could have taken the other list, I could have deployed this way, if I would have actually spaced these guys out a little bit more, prioritized my models for range elimination and so forth, you know, different choices made with boosting and so forth. There's a lot of different things you should be asking, and that's what's really going to be improving you as a player. So probably the first thing there is just self-analysis. Being able to be done with a game and be able to look back. And you know, maybe sometimes taking pictures of a game or something like that might be a good way of doing it, but really just maybe taking a second and going through the game step by step and saying, well, okay, I could have done this here, I could have done that there, but try and run through the game in your mind, and don't run through the game as if like looking for things to blame it on, like, oh yeah, and I rolled poorly here. No. I mean, sure, dice might have played a part, but look for the things that you do have a control on. Now, like he kind of hints on here, your opponent is a great person to ask about this, because whereas you kind of have a biased vision saying, this is the way I always play, these are my only options, well, they might be having a different viewpoint on the game. Whereas you're always going for assassination, they were going for scenario. And so if you ask things like, here's a big question to ask your opponents, you know, like, what are some of the things I could have done differently? And they could have like, oh, I could have done this, kind of this, kind of this, and like kind of asking like, what do you think was the big turning point in the game? And those really get down to those key points, the real main areas of like, okay, wow, the key mistake I made is that on turn 2, I forgot to contest this flag. It started off a domination thing, which all of a sudden the scenario really slipped and got away from me. So that's really it there. Make sure you do that self-analysis, and then while you have your opponent there, I mean, you usually have time, right? Fill in your sheets, give them the TO, or if it's just like a fun game, no big deal anyway. But just take a second to talk about the game, and don't be like I said, don't just blame it on the simple things like, oh, it was just a bad matchup, or oh, you got lucky, right? The more areas you can spread this out on, and the more decisions you can look at, that's how you're going to improve. Next one here comes from Bernardo Massa. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. And his is Soul Corpse tokens and how they interact with different rules and abilities such as revive, remove from game, and other token collectors. So last time we talked about the big differences between disabled, boxed, and destroyed, and how these are very key terms that you have to understand in the game. And so that a lot of ways that things interact, you have to really break it down to, okay, does this happen in the box destroyed or disabled box destroyed, and which one is it? Well, another complication here is the various types of tokens. If there were just one type of token, this would be really easy, but we got focus, we got fury, we got power tokens, we got souls, we got corpses, we got whatever types of stuff could be out there. And again, you have to really keep in mind that these are all separate, and you don't want to try and get these complicated. Now, some of these could be something like soul collection. And again, you can't even give like wild generalizations about this because there's so many different ones. Sometimes you get souls for when enemy models are killed in an area. Sometimes you get souls for when you actually kill an enemy model. Sometimes you get souls when friendly models die in an area. So it's, again, just like how I stressed with the disabled box destroyed, It's just really key that you just read into those rules to see, one, what type of tokens they're talking about, and two, how they're actually interacting. What's going to be the actual collection state. Now, it could be like if your thing's all about souls and you're playing against an opponent who's all about corpses, you might not need to really care about that at all. I'm doing my thing, you're doing your thing, it doesn't really matter. Now, if you're both going after the same thing, if you're both going after souls, then you start having some problems. Again, you have to make sure that both of yours actually matter, right? Because the big thing I'm going to stress is that when you're trying to collect, whoever is closer gets to take it. So if for some reason this person's after a corpse, you're after a corpse, but I'm closer, I get it. But again, make sure to read into those rules. Maybe I'm closer, but I only got it if I killed you, and you just died to fire or something else like that, right? So really make sure that you read those. Also, sometimes you'll have other interactions in there like remove from play, and so if your thing is I collect a soul when you get boxed, but your thing is removed from play when it was at disabled, well, then it doesn't get to that next step, right? Disabled, box, destroyed, and if you're removed from play, there's no more tokens there. So that's a very key thing. Make sure you know what types of tokens you're talking about. Make sure you understand how they're collected. Is it, friendly, area, whatever. Make sure you understand if you are competing with your opponent and if you have to be closer or further away. And also, what stage does it happen? Disabled, box, destroyed. So that's the one there. Again, I think a lot of people keep on pushing for specific examples, but I'm trying to stay away from that because of how there's so many slight different ones. I don't want anyone to get an idea that, oh, this is the way that the souls work, because, man, there's some different ways where they're actually collected. So just really make sure you read those cards and look at those main points like I was talking about. Next one here, what do you think of the recent leaked sculpts? Now, for those, who knows when you're going to be watching this video, but there's been some new ones coming out. There's the new Flame Guard Solo or UA, whatever. He looks pretty cool. But for the most part, whenever you get these new models leaked and coming out, it's always cool to see what's coming up. Of course, like some of these new ones, they're actually like AutoCAD renders as opposed to actually pictures, so there's still that question up in the air if it could actually be modified or something like that, but it's always interesting to see these. Now, the one that I probably want to make the biggest note on, and I don't know if he's trying to make me say more about it, because I made a comment on this on the Facebook there for Mr. Malorian, is the Rock. So that's the one troll special character. Normally you only see Mulg, but there actually is another one that has, Rock, and he has an assault spray, and he has primal, and all these cool things, but he just isn't Mulg. So you don't normally ever see him. And now all of a sudden he's getting a brand new sculpt. So the way he worked before is you'd buy the regular plastic kit, you'd buy an extra blister and be able to, basically just modify him up, and there you go. And that's how it was with a lot of other ones. That's how Proteus was. That's how Getorix was, right? A lot of these other character jacks were a thing where you just buy that base plastic one, Tiberian, and then have an extra blister to go and modify it. And being able to see this, where now it's like, oh, well, here's an alternate sculpt, was really weird to see. I haven't gone into any digging to see if there's any reasons been posted out, but I'm not really a fan of it. To me, the Rock model as exists was a fine looking model. It wasn't overly popular, so no one was really clamoring for it anyway. I would much rather see either one of the models that we're waiting for to come out for instead, or redo one that really needs redoing. One of the things that me and my buddies were talking about was the Avatar of Menoth. That's a model that a lot of people like and doesn't really have a sculpt that a lot of people enjoy. Little tiny sword, really static pose. You could do a lot with that model. It's a jack that's infused with a god. This thing could be crazy, and it's kind of a little bit boring and underwhelming. So again, it's a really, really cool model, and I think it looks awesome. And then I'm wondering too, like, are they going to redo Getorix now? Or are they going to redo Proteus? How far are they going to go with this? Maybe this is testing the waters, but only time will tell. So that was Tom Bell. Next one here is from Matthew Miller, and he says, how important is advanced deploy and advanced move? In my limited experience, it seems that the ability to get up the board quickly really changes the way the game plays out, especially if one side has it and the other side does not. Do you think that all armies should have some sort of element of advanced deploy or advanced movement, if only to combat opposing elements with the same rules? Well, advanced deploy and advanced move can be, or pretty much always is, good. If you had a choice of either having it or not having it, you would always want it. You know, being further up the board is hardly ever a bad thing. Unless all of a sudden means like your opponent is able to first turn shoot you with some super crazy long range modifier thing. Yeah, advanced deployment or advanced move is always awesome. Now, advanced move is a little bit less awesome because it's just a single move up. I suppose if you're faster than speed 6, it could be a little bit farther up, but deployment starts being an issue. If all your models had advanced move, you'd have to go into this long line, but if half of them had, you know, regular move and half of them have advanced deployment, well, then all of a sudden you have these lines that don't have to stretch out all the way to the board ends. Another thing to keep in mind there too is that if you do have advanced move and advanced deploy, make sure you leave room for those advanced move guys to go up and that you don't block them with your advanced deploy. So getting back into the question here of how important it is, it also kind of matters what you're trying to do with your army. A lot of times these advanced deploy models are things you're supposed to just jam up against your opponent's face. Sometimes they are a little bit more key, like, you know, mage, hunter, assassins, or strike force or something like this, but other times they're like press gangers. We're just going to run up there. Now, of course, the board and taking over the board is critical. It could be critical for taking scenario, for contesting scenario, to getting to your opponent, to really just, like I say before with the shooting, getting up the board so you can start shooting and falling back. So the part of the question here was that should you always take advanced deploy? And I think a real big question of that is, well, what are you trying to do? If I'm running a siege gun line and my plan is just to try and shoot you as you're coming in, well, you know, maybe you could say it'd be nice to have some advanced deploy to contest scenario or something like that, but my game plan is to shoot you down. And if that advanced deploy doesn't have a gun, I don't know if it's really going to help me. Unless, again, my plan for the advanced deploy is to slow you down so I can shoot down parts of the army before it gets to me, and then advanced deploy just makes it a little bit more further ahead. But again, it's not really key or important. However, if your plan is to get up the board, take over the board, and get a jump on scenario, advanced deploy is very, very, very important. So again, it really depends on what you're trying to do. Now, with that in mind, do you need advanced deploy to fight your enemy's advanced deploy? Well, that again depends what your army is trying to do. If you're up against cryx and they have their raiders, that can be extremely scary. And you almost more importantly want to go first so that you can move up and really take away that. Because if those advanced deploy raiders go first, you can barely leave your deployment zone before they can actually charge you. Now, do you need to have advanced deployment to actually slow them down? Not really. I mean, you either need to have powerful range options or throwaway models, which you can just put in front of you to stall them for a turn. Of course, at that point, you know, it almost doesn't matter if they have advanced deploy or not. If those raiders went first and they ran up, well, whether you had regular advanced deploy or not, you can still go and slow them down. So it's not the hugest deal. So again, maybe I'm not getting across what you're looking for, but if you ever have the option for advanced deploy, it is an awesome rule to have, but it is more important that you actually have a game plan for your list and that each portion of your list construction is designed to go towards that goal. If your goal is capturing the board, that's awesome. If your goal is to really just have a gun line and shoot things down as they come in, a little bit less important. So hopefully that answers your question, and if not, I'm sorry. Next one here comes from Tyrese, and he says just the new ADR. This is one he just missed from last week, so we'll capture it here. So the new ADR, we're talking about pretty much the 2016 new one that's coming up here. It was leaked. It's not right now, unless you're watching this in the future, but they've actually released what this new ADR is going to be, and it is a lot different. Basically, before, what it really looked like they're trying to do with the ADR is try and find casters that were very unpopular. So, you know, you could say like, oh, they're weak or whatever. The main thing is they're going after casters that weren't really being used. So I found that really interesting, because the ADR is a straight up buff, if you have it, where hey, if you have these two casters from ADR, you get the sidebar board. And so even if you are in that camp of like, oh, this is a weaker caster, by taking this less popular caster, you now have more options going in, making you have a more powerful list overall. And it can really change the game, right? Having the option of like having a Stormwall jump in whenever you need it, that can really change any game. Now, when we look at this new ADR though, it's a lot different. So maybe I'll go through all of these, and we'll kind of touch on these each individually. Not a whole bunch, but it's going to show you what we're talking about here. So for Signar, we have Epic Striker, Epic Kane, Haley, and Nemo 3. Now, those are all good casters. They are not the unpopular ones. They're not like Constance and Sturgis and blah, blah, blah. These are all good casters. Now, they're not all like the most popular casters. We're not seeing like Haley 2 here, or Siege, or Haley 3. But we are seeing these very, very strong casters. And to me, you know, I look at these, and having Epic Kane and P. Haley on here is pretty amazing, and you can do some really, really tough stuff. So that really, if I was going into this and it was like, okay, it's an ADR, it's a master situation, of course I'm going to go with the ADR, because these are casters I'm very likely to want to be taking anyway, and then they just get better. So there you are. Next one here with Menoth, we have Epic Krios, we have Epic Fiora, we have Severius, and we also have the High Reclaimer. This one, you know, again, you're not seeing some of the Harby or stuff like that, but you are seeing some of the ones that people like Severius is good. Epic Krios you don't see a lot of. Epic Fiora, you see a good amount of her, and High Reclaimer can definitely be interesting. But yeah, you know, okay, this one does. I mean, I'm not a Menoth player, so this doesn't seem over the top like the Signar one, but it's still good. It's not like the very unpopular ones, but it's the ones like, okay, they're pretty interesting. Getting on to Kador, we have Vlad, we have Sorsha, which is really good. We have Epic Irusk, and we also have Epic Zerkova. And yeah. To me, I look at this, and I look at Sorsha and Epic Zerkova and go, wow, that'd be really scary. Epic Zerkova, she's a new hotness for Kador, where you just go up there and magical spray for days, and things just die. And with Sorsha, she is the really, really nasty attrition or you know, assassination. And yeah, again, them being able to pick and choose the ADR to make their things better, depending on what they need to fight you, really, really tough. Getting on to Cryx here, and we have Epic Scar, we have Denegra 3, we have Epic Gorshade, or Horseshade, the third one, and then we also have Mortenebra. Now, again, Scar, really popular, Epic Scar, not so much. So, to me, when I see these, I'm guessing most people are going to go with Gorshade 3 and Denegra 3. Those seem very strong. In the beginning, a lot of people didn't like Denegra 3, but from what I've seen from her, she is very, very strong, and she will play a very big role. Again, you don't see those top ones, but you see some fairly good ones. Retribution, they don't have a lot of options to begin with, but they have Thyron, Ron, Syria, and also Viros. And so really when I'm looking at this and some of the new things coming out, I'm guessing Ron and Assyria will be the more popular, but I'm sure there's some other ones being mixed in there. Convergence, kind of a joke because they only have 5 casters, but Father's on here, Father LeConte, who's really good, only Mother's not. So you have Aurora, you have Axis, and you have Cytherean. I really think you're going to see Axis and Father. They are the Axis tier, and Father LeConte anytime, really, really good. So continuing down now, we get to Mercenaries, and they have Bart, they have Thexus, they have Durgan, and they have Fiona the Black. Now, Thexus, he's good, but ADR doesn't do a lot for him because there's not a lot of different things you can take, but still, it's nice to have. Bart, of course, we could be seeing Return of the Bart Galleons. Durgan is always really good, and Fiona's good as well. Honestly, I think a lot of times you are going to see the Durgan and Fiona, but you can also see some Thexus in there. And again, the Bart one is like, okay, the question, do I want to go with 1 galleon or 2 galleons? And that can be really scary too. So each of these, very valid. Trolls here, we have Borka, we have Grizel, we have Epic Madrak, and then we also have Gunbjorn. Now, Gunbjorn has gotten more popular since the Highwaymen came out. Maybe with this Glacier King could be interesting too. Epic Madrak definitely is a solid caster. Grizel is pretty solid. Borka's fine. I really think you're going to see a lot of Grizel and Epic Madrak, but again, we'll kind of see. Then we get into the Hordes, and for Circle, we have Chromac, we have Balder, we have Mosar, and we have Kruger. And I'm guessing with these, you're going to see mainly Chromac and Kruger. Chromac can do a lot for killing heavies. Kruger can do a lot for killing infantry. And again, if you get to pick and choose with that sidebar what goes into there, you can really light up those armies and make them really good. The Scorn one here, you have Epic Hexerus, you have Makeda 3, you have Epic Zal, and you have Morgul. This one, I'm not really feeling. It seems like they don't have a lot of their really favorites here, and although some people like the Morgul list, I like the Epic Zal, but a lot of Scorn players don't. This seems to be really out of their element. So whereas some of the other ones, like, wow, that's amazing, the Scorn one does seem to be lacking it a bit. The next one here is the Legion, and you have Rias, you have Vale, you have Epic Lilith, and then Epic Abby. And to me, Epic Abby is good, and I think there's one that could sneak in there, but I think most of them will be Vale and Epic Lilith. That is really scary to see Epic Lilith in here. Almost as scary it is to see Epic Cain in here. So definitely Legion loving this new ADR. And then finally Minions, where there's not much Minions anyway, but we have Helga, Dr. Arcadius, which is, of course, with his new tier, great, Rask, who's awesome, and also Caliban, which, now that he has an Arc node, maybe we'll have to kind of see how that goes, but basically now I've ran through them all, and what I see with this is like, whoa, something has really changed, something's really different, whereas before, they always took the least popular options. It seems like they really completely changed gears here. Instead of doing that, they said, okay, what are the top casters for every faction that you see all the time? And we're just going to take those out. No Epic Haleys for you, no Denny 2s for you, no Denny 1, blah, blah, blah. All these top ones, gone. Now, that's then going to have a different effect on the different factions. For example, if you are someone like Convergence who doesn't really have much they can lose anyway, it's like, yeah, go ahead. It's no difference. Pick one to not be here, and we'll deal with the others. Some of the other ones where they have just strong casters across the way, like Signar and Legion, and a lot of the Cryx guys are against it, but I think they're still fine here. You can take those off, and they're still really solid. However, there's some others here, let's say, for example, like I feel like the Scorn one, where it's like, oh, it seems like when you take the favorites out there, that it's really now lacking. They don't really have all the answers and all the tools that they need. Now again, maybe I'm just not a Scorn player, so I'm not seeing what they actually really have there, but that's what it feels to me. But they changed their strategy. They took out that top level, and now that's really going to kind of affect the factions in a different way. Now, something to keep in mind with this as well is they also have a new format that they're going to try where basically, okay, in Masters, it's an option. If you take the ADR, then if you both go with it, you get that sideboard for those. There was going to be another variant here, and of course now I forgot the name, where you're forced to take the ADR and there's no advantages. I really, really wish they would have done that with the last ADR, forcing everyone to take those least popular options. With this new one here, where you're forcing to take, like, take away the super upper crust, and now you have this up here, it really seems like it's not fair going across the different factions. So either way, that's it. I talked about it a whole bunch. It's interesting. We're going to have to see what happens. I still really wish they just for Masters say, hey, Masters is 3 lists, but we'll see how this goes. Next one here is from Oscar, Drabakowski. Hopefully that's close enough. And this one here is how to deal with Cryx Bane Swarm playing Trollbloods, Rune of War Tier 4. Well, that is very, very specific. Well, if you're going up against Bane Swarm, you're probably up against Goreshade, and what you're looking at here is something Trollbloods don't want to see. Trollbloods have low defense, high armor, and then what's coming into them here, it's something that is going to be able to be loving hitting that low defense, and then they're charging Weapon Masters, they'll lower your armor, and yeah, they're just going to rip you up. And so this is kind of a nightmare situation. So you probably have a couple of different options of what you want to be going after here. One, really tough going for attrition. If you want, you can go in there and try and send in those AoEs, trying to stay back with your beasts, or if your beasts ever commit, try and cover it with the Rune Shapers, but really just trying to give up table space. So again, going first will be key here, and trying to just reduce their numbers. Again, even if they have stealth, let those drift and try and do something. And then at the end, just trying to claw them down. That's going to be a tough one. It's going to be very tough. Another one, too, is just trying to deliver Mulg. So in this one here, don't worry about attrition. Don't worry about losses. The biggest thing is that you want to get Mulg to their caster. So maybe giving them juicy targets like, oh, all these guys came over here, all these Rune Shapers. Oh, no, you're going to charge them. And then all of a sudden you try and make a gap so you can get Mulg through. You're going to be forced to be very aggressive to get Mulg up there. You're going to be forced to feed them things to make them spread out and make an opening to their caster. Again, if it is kill box, it's going to really help. But that is honestly a very tough one to be going with. Good luck. That's really what I can say. I mean, those are really your options. Either you're trying to go for attrition or probably for the assassination. Scenario probably won't be on the table. Death clock, maybe, sure, yeah. Maybe that's going to be it, is that you just want them to kind of like run around the board and run down that clock. But usually you make them run down that time by making attacks. And when Cryx make attacks, they kill stuff. So, it's going to be tough. I mean, another thing you can use your walls. If they're Bane Thralls, they don't have reach. So use those walls to your advantage to really control what can attack you. And you can try and fight your way through it that way. But again, yeah, it's going to be a tough one. So I hope I gave enough there too. Again, that's a very specific one that seems like a fairly bad situation. And so yeah, either just attrition, assassination, and you got to play it smart with those walls. Use those walls to your advantage big time. He just says Banes here in general, so if it's Bane Knights, for God's sakes, don't trigger vengeance when you don't need to, right? If you don't plan to really decimate like at least half or more of that unit, don't kill any of them, because it's just not worth it in a lot of situations. So next one here is from Will Jones, and it says, when you set up models and have no idea what the other guy's stuff does, stop. So if you're unfortunately, if you're already setting up models, you're probably already on the clock, and so you're already kind of past the point that you should have been doing this. If you know nothing about your opponent and what their stuff does, you should be asking to see their cards. So you go, you can even do this before you pick casters. Just say, hey, I don't know what this does, look at the card. And that's completely fine. Some people feel like, ooh, I don't want to slow things down, I don't want to look like a noob, I don't want to bother this guy. No, it's like, okay, I don't know what that does, can I see your cards? Oh, okay. I mean, you really want to do it as soon as possible. When you're looking at their 2 lists and you say like, oh wow, I don't even know what this does, or if it says like, oh, this is a tier 3, what the hell does a tier do? Look into that right away, because that could greatly change what you're actually going to be picking from your 2 lists, and then of course can be changing things like how you're going to deploy. Now, let's get back to this question that Will posed that says, you are now setting up models and you don't know what their stuff does. So that means I assume this was from a tournament 2 list thing. Maybe it's just a casual game. Maybe you just came up, you started deploying, and you're like, wow, I've never seen that model before. And okay, that's another way where, okay, maybe you didn't miss it. This is now happening at this time. And again, what do? Ask for that card. Get that information right away. Even if you're on the clock and it's ticking down, you can't afford not to know. And it doesn't take long, right? Take a look at the card, try and see what weapons it has, its speeds, especially the rules in the back. The rules in the back are what the gotchas are going to be, and so those will be things like, oh wow, it does this, or it's countercharge, or something. Know them right away, and spending a minute or 2 of your death clock doing that, completely worth it, as opposed to, we'll just see what happens, deploy and go, and then gotcha, you're dead. No, this is a game of knowledge, and get that knowledge as soon as you can. Best D feature, sorry. Man, I'm actually interested. If you could tell me what, where around the world you came from. I've never seen a name like that. And maybe it's like base, maybe it's bass, but either way, how do you make list pairings? Well, there's a lot of different ways you could be making list pairings, but for a lot of times what you want to do is you want to be starting with your base list, your prime list. This is probably the one that you have the most experience with, you're the most familiar, you've played the most times, and this is going to be your number 1, your go-to list. Sometimes it'll be an all-rounder list, sometimes it'll be a skew list. A skew list like, oh, it's big-time armor, it's big-time speed and jam, it's a big-time assassination. Hey, maybe it could be an all-rounder list, but this is going to be your first one in, and this is this. Now, once you have that number 1 list, now you got to put it to the side and say, what are the weaknesses of those lists? Maybe if it's a skew like high armor, well, your problem is going to be anything that can crack armor. Or maybe if you're a double colossal, a big weakness is 1, something that's going to be taking out that high armor, but 2, jamming those few models out of the zones. If your prime list has to do with shooting, then maybe your secondary list has to be with something that, okay, if they had a list like Barnabas that says you can't shoot me, what would I like to take instead? So it's really is trying to look at that first list, look at the weaknesses, and then build a second list that's going to assume those weaknesses come to you. That way, when it comes to your list pairings and you're looking at which one you're going to go, you're going to say, okay, can I use this one no matter which one they use? And if it's no, then oh, okay, then you have to start looking at this one. And of course, again, we can get into things like, the amount of risk for either one for pairings, but this is more how to build that list. Now, maybe you build your first list to pretty much deal with everything. Maybe, and this is probably going to come more so if you are more of a competitive player, someone who expects to be up there in the top tables. And then you can say like, well, I'm going to build this one list that can pretty much handle everything, but it's not even so much of a weakness of this. I know I'm going to be fighting Jimmy probably in the finals. I need a list just to beat Jimmy. And it could not cover all the weaknesses of the first list, but it just gives you everything you need to beat Jimmy in the end. that's another way you want to go. There's certainly risks with that. You have to make a lot of assumptions. Who knows, maybe Jimmy or whoever, built a completely different list. And so when you build this whole second one to deal with him, now they don't complement each other at all. So it could work out as genius if you're really good at seeing the meta, guessing what people are going to be taking. But if you're not good at that, you could be shooting yourself in the leg. More often than not, looking at the weaknesses and the gaps of the first list is probably the way you want to go. Now, another way, again, if you want to be playing some mind games, is you might be building the first list to push people into where your first list is better. And I call that a boogeyman list. So maybe I know that, okay, I'm going to be running this jam list, and I'm going to be doing this the whole time, and I'm trying to take all these models and go, go, go. Well, what am I worried about? I'm worried about that they might take something that's anti-infantry. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a boogeyman list, a list that they're going to look at right away and go like, wow, I have to deal with that. And so, for example, that list could be something like Haley 2 Double Stormwall, where they're going to look at that going like, wow, that's a powerful list. I need to take a list that's going to beat that. And how are they going to beat that? They're going to take that with strong armor-cracking lists that are going to be able to get there and tear apart those storm walls and are really resilient. Well, when they take that list and I take my jam list, I'm going to have a huge advantage. Now, again, that's really dependent on your skills for these mind games. If you are not good at selling this, or if people know you're like, okay, Malorian, oh boy, boogeyman, come on, we know you're taking your jam list, then that's kind of pretty much pointless again. Just like we were trying to guess what Jimmy takes. If you're trying to play these mind games and then you don't end up actually having the right list to fight them with, you're just kind of, again, shooting yourself in the foot, and it's not going to help you. So there's these gamble options, but again, if you're 95% of the people, I would say make your first list that you're most experienced with, and then make a second list that covers those gaps and weaknesses. Okay, last one on here is from Zachary Cash, and it says, my girlfriend, a few other friends of mine, and myself want to get started. I'm going Gatorman, and my girlfriend is going Cryx. Ugh, that could be nasty. I want to get us started as cheaply and quickly as possible. I have a question about Cryx Battle Box. Are the cards in it Mark 1 or Mark 2? They should be Mark 2, but again, okay, so for those who don't know, who are new, the marks in Warmachine are basically the additions. So something like 5 years ago, that's when it was Mark 1, and that was their first series of the rules. And you'd have these Mark 1 cards that look way different than what these current ones look like. Some of the points, instead of being like 10 points, it's like 100 points. It's totally different scale. So by now, a lot of those cards and boxes should be sold and gone. The odds of seeing those are very, very rare. However, if you're buying these online, if you're getting these from, like, if you see there's dust on the package and stuff, there is a possibility that it is Mark 1 cards. Now, if you do get Mark 1 cards, first of all, let Privateer Press know. They might just send you the Mark 2 cards. If they don't, just buy them off the site. They are extremely cheap. You're saying here about how you want to go for this as cheaply as possible. Well, I believe they sell the cards for 50 cents each. So, yeah, if you're missing cards, it's a very cheap order to get them all back. And again, I would not expect them to be very many. The last time I got a Mark 1 card was probably 3 years ago. And now with all the other purchases I've made, you just don't see them. It's too far away. And if it ever does happen, I think in that case there, I just showed it to the store owner. He's like, oh, wow. Opened up another one, gave me a Mark II, and then ordered the other one himself, right? More of a customer service thing. And then even if you don't know that nice guy, it's really cheap to get those in. So there you go. There is I should have had a glass of water or something here to handle my throat, but there's the Warmachine 101. I'll be doing another one next weekend, and so please go to the Facebook site and look for that. Usually about Thursday, Friday, I put up the post for it, and we'll see you then. Bye.